December the 4th, 1944. A deadly delivery to a secret rendezvous. This is the start of a mission designed to change the war's outcome. Operation Caesar will prompt a unique underwater confrontation, a duel to the death between two submarines.
I have control of the submarine. Action stations. Look for target.
Herr Kapitän! Torpedoaufgeräusch! Quersteuerbord!
It's a question of who makes the first mistake is the loser.
Fire one!
Hart Backbord! Auf 40 Meter gehen!
Fire three!
Today, a broken wreck could hold vital clues to the denouement of this battle of wits.
There is the tragic part of this. You know that inside this metal coffin there are a significant number of people.
Edith Wetzler has come to pay tribute to a man she once loved and lost. It's more than 60 years since she last saw the face of her fiancé. Willy Transier was barely 18 when he left Edith.
Das sind ja schon 60 Jahre her.
This all happened 60 years ago, and the fact that I can still remember it proves that we really loved each other. It still hurts, but I'm so thankful that we had those few years together.
Bedanke ich mich, dass ich die paar Jahre mit ihm verbringen durfte.
Otherwise, he would have had nothing from life. At least for those couple of years, he knew real happiness, and he lived our love.
Und die Liebe leben.
Willy's other great love was the sea. In October 1942, he joined the German Navy as a volunteer. He worked his way up from personnel clerk and became a submarine mechanic. His first mission was on the U-boat U864. By December 1944, the tide of war had turned against Hitler and Germany. Heavy attacks on land, in the air, and on the sea had pushed the Germans back. They were hemmed in on all sides. One of the last possible operational routes was through the North Sea. It was from Kiel that U864 prepared to try and escape the Allied stranglehold. The commander in charge, Captain Ralph Reimer Wolfram, had limited experience. Life was short for submariners. In the 5th year of the war, the German Navy was running out of veterans. U864 was not just a normal U-boat. The 9D2 class boat was very large, almost 90 meters long, and capable of 20 knots. It had been filled with a secret cargo. And just as precious, a human cargo. German and Japanese scientists and engineers. They were Hitler's last hope to change the war's outcome. Wolfram's orders were clear. At any cost, these men and their cargo had to reach Japan's production sites. On the early morning of December the 5th, 1944, Captain Wolfram set out into the open sea. Operation Caesar would take U864 from Kiel around Africa to Penang in Asia. The men on board knew it would be a dangerous voyage. They were prepared for a trip that would last many months.
Herr Kapitän?
Alles in Ordnung? Ein wenig Glück könnten wir schon gebrauchen.
Billy said to me, "This mission is a mystery. Nobody knows where it's going or how it will end."
Traveling through northern waters had become a risky venture. The Allies had seized command of the seas. The once successful wolf packs were becoming easy prey. The Royal Air Force and the Royal Navy were on constant lookout for German U-boats. 60 years later, the tiny island of Feyja in Norway. German scientist Wolfgang Lauenstein has come to inspect a mysterious wreck, the subject of many rumors. He was contacted by a fisherman who found a strange object in his nets. It seems to be a valve, probably from a German submarine. Speculation abounds about the find.
The less information people have, the more they make things up. We don't know what's in this mystery U-boat. People are spinning all kinds of weird stories. Some even say Hitler's last will could be in there.
But Lauenstein's research is founded on hard facts, like the record of the last radio message that was sent to U864. It's for a rendezvous with an escort ship near the lighthouse of Feyja, a rendezvous U864 never made. Almost a week into its mission, U864 was crawling along the southern coast of Norway. It traveled submerged in daylight. The danger of being detected was great. From time to time, Captain Wolfram risked his periscope. No contacts were logged.
Leutnant, gehen Sie auf 40 Meter Tiefe. Halbe Kraft voraus.
The records show no problems for Operation Caesar and U864 until the 29th of December.
Verdammt! Ellie! Alle Maschinen stopp! Langsame Rückwärtsfahrt! Langsame Fahrt zurück! Ellie! Ja, prüfen Sie auf Wassereinbruch! Aye, Captain!
In Feyja, the German scientist Wolfgang Lauenstein is reviewing yet more documents. The archives have yielded previously lost details about the secret cargo of Operation Caesar. When U864 accidentally ran aground, Captain Wolfram's first task was to check his U-boat was still watertight. Once the boat reported back, it was time for his guests to check if their secret and delicate load had suffered any damage. Inside the crates, wrapped in straw, the prize. Jet engines for the first successful jet fighters, developed by Junkers, BMW and Messerschmitt. The German and Japanese scientists' checks revealed no damage to these fragile engines. Germany's technically superior Messerschmitt jet fighters were eagerly sought by the Japanese Air Force. They were a last desperate resource to turn the tide in the Pacific War. The Japanese High Command believed they could disrupt the American bombers and win back aerial supremacy. The transportation of the Messerschmitt planes was top secret. But as Herr Lauenstein's research has proved, little about this mission remained hidden from the British. The codebreakers at Bletchley Park had seen to that. Hundreds of staff worked in shifts to crack the codes of the German Enigma machine and reveal the hidden messages. The British Ultra machines meant that almost all radio traffic was deciphered, especially the U-boat communications. One intercepted message spoke about the cargo of U864. The British codebreakers discovered and reported every detail, even the names of the German and Japanese scientists and the cover name of this secret mission, Operation Caesar. After the grounding, U864 put into the city of Bergen in Norway. The vessel was brought into dry dock inside the U-boat pen, Bruno. The last massive beachhead of the German Navy in the North Atlantic. This stopover in Bergen was not on the original itinerary of U864. Drawing on their unexpected leave, the crew were allowed ashore. Captain Wolfram and his guests visited the officers' mess at naval headquarters in Bergen. The captain, his officers and guests all recorded their visit in the mess guest book. Wolfram wrote the motto of all German U-boat captains, "Heart of gold, clear horizon." Referring to his grounding, he wrote, "We were lucky again." This luck ended just hours later. British Lancaster bombers launched a massive air raid on Bergen. Their target, the U-boat pen Bruno. One enormous Taliboy bomb hit the reinforced concrete walls of bunker number 3. Inside lay U864. The crew of the U-boat had to extend their stay in Bergen for repairs. All this confirmed the growing apprehension of the German mechanic, Willy Transier. He had his doubts about this voyage even before it started, and now saw his misgivings confirmed. Just before departure, he wrote a last message to Edith Wetzler.
This is the last photo of my fiancé, which he dedicated to me with the words, "Farewell greetings and kisses, your Willy."
Just before Willy left Germany, he and Edith had become engaged.
He said, "Pray for me that we come through this in one piece." And he said to his mother, "Mama, don't be sad if I don't come back. I know you're too old to have another child," or I would have said, "Have another child so you won't be alone." And he said to me, "Should you be pregnant, please, please let me know." But I wasn't. It didn't turn out that way.
The intercepted radio messages were forwarded to the submarine base in Lerwick, Shetlands, the home base for submarines like HMS Venturer.
Action stations!
This 740-ton V-class submarine had already sunk 13 vessels in the North Sea and North Atlantic.
Fire one!
She was under the command of Lieutenant Jimmy Launders. John Watson was navigating officer in HMS Venturer.
We knew we were in a weapon, a war weapon, and it was one that we knew was very effective, beautifully built, and that our objective was to do the job and then get back alive.
25-year-old Lieutenant Jimmy Launders was a rising star among Royal Navy submarine commanders.
Target range 2,500 yards.
Able seaman Harry Plummer, the torpedo man, also has fond memories of his captain.
Fire one! Fire one! Hit confirmed. Well done, boys.
I think he knew his job and he got on with his job. Nothing interfered. And we trusted him. We knew he was a good commander. And we'd have gone to the end of the earth with him because he was that good.
The 11th Patrol of HMS Venturer saw her ordered to the island of Faya. The waters around this island were strategically important. German positions dotted the landscape to protect the area from Allied naval attack, lying just off occupied territory.
Aztec reports.
This mission had brought them into the lion's den.
We received a lot of depth charges in the course of the patrols, and we realised that it was a sort of rebate coming back again for what we'd done.
In Faya, the Norwegian research vessel Geobay is ready to cast off. On board, Wolfgang Lauenstein and Dr. Eric Grove, the leading British naval historian. This trip will bring them to the site of the still unnamed wreck.
This was the main path to the open sea of the U-boat base at Bergen back there. And so if German U-boats were going to move and going to be operational, they had to move through these waters here. And this meant that if you wanted to interdict that, if you wanted to stop the movement, then here was where, or just off here, was where you concentrated your anti-submarine assets.
For 3 days, Venturer lay off the Norwegian coast, but with no contacts. On February the 5th, Launders received a message sent by the Admiralty.
Message to send, sir.
It suggested that Launders position the Venturer near the lighthouse of Hellesøy, on the southern coast of Faya. U864 had finally relaunched Operation Caesar and set out to continue her journey from Bergen. Her way out to the open sea would take her close by the island of Faya. The recently repaired engines were reporting no problems.
Obermaschinist, ist alles in Ordnung?
Alles bestens, Ali!
The German crew didn't know that Venturer was so close and on the lookout.
Up periscope.
Launders made careful use of his periscope, but how to detect a U-boat? On the 6th of February, U864 passed this critical point undetected and continued its way north. Despite the messages and information from base, the search area was vast thousands of square miles of ocean. Finding a submerged submarine would not prove an easy task for the venturer. By means of sonic waves, it was possible to locate other vessels, but the noise of this ASDIC could also give away their own position. To avoid alerting the Germans, Launders decided not to use the ASDIC sound waves, just to monitor the headset for the sounds of distant propellers. February the 8th, 5:20 a.m. Panic in the engine room of U864. Willie and his fellow mechanics were called to try and repair the damage. But it was soon clear one of the engines had a serious problem.
Wir haben ein Problem. Entweder mit dem Zylinder oder mit dem Kompressor. Kriegen das nicht auf.
Hey! Kapitän! Der Steuerbordsuche! Er ist ausgefallen! Wir können ihn hier nicht mehr reparieren!
Kommandant an alle. Wir kehren sofort nach Bergen zurück, um Schäden zu reparieren. Kurs 135 Grad, Boot auf Seerohrtiefe halten.
After radioing the bad news in to headquarters, Wolfram received an immediate answer.
Kapitän, eine Nachricht.
1WO.
Ja, Herr Kapitän.
Die Eskorte erwartet uns am 10. Februar 4 Uhr morgens in Helisoy.
Near Faya, the research vessel Geobay scans the bottom of the sea with its sonar. The first pictures of the seabed appear on the monitor in the control room. Two pieces of a submarine lie close to each other.
That's good, yes.
That's excellent.
It blew the U-boat apart completely.
And each part went its own way.
Absolutely.
Yes. And I can't understand at the moment that we shall find the bow in a distance to the aft of about 40 meters.
It's a long way away, and
a long way.
It's been turned round, hasn't it? You can see it's been turned round.
Turn around.
Yes.
Yes.
The images reveal that one of the pieces of the hull is stuck, nearly upright in the silt, 150 meters below the surface of the freezing water. February the 9th, 1945. On board the Venturer, the ASDIC man was carefully monitoring for nearby vessels by hydrophone. Suddenly, at 9:23 in the morning, he reported a new sound, a different tone. John Watson was the officer on watch.
Diesel off the starboard bow. Off periscope.
I could not see what was causing this noise. He said it sounded a bit like a fishing vessel starting and stopping its engines, you see, as if it was doing something with its fishing, and I should have been able to see it. The other fishing vessels were further away, and he said, no, they're much further away. This is closer. So I was concerned about that because I couldn't see it.
Nothing in sight.
On his way back to Helisoy, Captain Wolfram was worrying about the engine noise. As he well knew, making noise underwater could be fatal.
Ellie?
Kapitän.
Wie weit sind wir mit dem Generator zu hören?
Sehr weit, Kapitän. Sehen Sie hier. Das ist unsere Position und in diesem Umkreis sind wir zu hören.
Again, Wolfram checked for the enemy and, above all, for his escort. It meant risking the periscope. John Watson's watch ended at 10 a.m.
Lost contact, sir.
His replacement was First Lieutenant Andy Chalmers.
What's going on?
Pursuing noise to the north, seeing every other Aztec contact. This one definitely suspicious.
Very good, I have the watch. Up periscope.
He noted that, but he had to keep a sharp eye on the fishing vessels that we were moving towards. And he also kept a sharp eye on the bearing where the noise had been.
Once again, Wolfram checked his periscope. A dangerous tactic. His rendezvous with his escort was in just a few hours, but the periscope could give him away.
Nothing in sight. Aztec report.
Regain contact. Green 10. Possible diesel engine.
The noise started to get louder when he was on watch and started to travel across ahead of us.
Up periscope. Look for the target.
Briefly, in the distance, Chalmers sighted a thin mast.
Mast in sight, bearing 340. Captain to the control room. Captain to the control room! Mast in sight, sir. Range 4,000 yards. I have control of the submarine. Action stations!
Action stations! Action stations! Action stations!
Aztec report.
Contact. Possible diesel engine.
And we all realized that we were dealing with a submerged U-boat.
We felt a bit shaky because he could sink us the same as we could sink him.
The hunt was on now for the German U-boat with the secret cargo bound for Japan. On board the Geobay, Lauenstein is discussing another item on the cargo list with the Norwegian crew. Because if this wreck really is U864, it has 60 tons of mercury in 1,857 flasks on board. An ecological time bomb, the real reason for the Norwegian team's search mission.
I think it's important that something is done about it as quickly as possible. I think the problem really is that here we have a war grave below us, but equally it's a war grave that could bite back.
Geobay has the latest state-of-the-art tools on board. It is equipped with a huge remote-operated vehicle, or ROV. Its onboard cameras will help resolve the wreck's identity. Slowly, the ROV is lowered into the water and begins its 150-meter descent towards the wreck.
Picture is frozen.
The scientists monitor the screens in the control room. On board U864, the noise of the engines would be terrifying for the crew. Even the scientists on board couldn't fail to notice that something had to be wrong.
Das ist doch nicht in Ordnung hier. Bitte bleiben Sie in Ihrer Kabine. Es gibt keinen Grund zur Aufregung.
But Wolfram himself knew this was not so. On his shoulders rested the lives of 73 men. Meanwhile, Watson and Launders were following every move of the unknown U-boat. The hunt was on, and it was clearly not the usual prey.
It was unbelievable because normally we go to action stations and the action is over in a matter of minutes. But we were called to action stations and we didn't go to the action until about 3/4 of an hour later.
Aztec report.
Altering course.
We were hoping that she would surface, and then if she surfaced, we would be able to torpedo her straight away. We get much more accurate information about her and for the director angle and all the rest of it, but there's no sign of her doing that.
ASDIC report.
He was underwater, we were underwater. He had no instructions on how to deal with it.
Target in sight, bearing 060, range 1,000 yards.
0, range 1,000 yards.
Starboard 15, steer 140. ASDIC.
Altering course, possible zigzagging.
We soon realised after quite a half an hour that he was actually zigzagging. It came up straight away on the plot.
Up periscope, look for target.
The next problem was to work out what the zigzag was. You know, which were the short legs and which were the long legs. We knew that the chances were he was probably zigzagging on a complicated pattern. They told us that he was very nervous of us, of the chances of there being a British U-boat, a British submarine there.
Moving in a straight line would get Wolfram back to Bergen faster, but it would also make his path predictable.
Leutnant, 40 Grad, Backbord.
With no escort, Captain Wolfram's only hope was to be a moving target. All he could do was change course as often as possible. But every periscope maneuver from Wolfram gave Launders more detailed information about the course of the U-boat.
One mast sighted, bear 091.
If we ever saw anything of his periscope, not his radio mast, but his periscope, he had a chance to see us. So there's that risk.
You want to get the torpedoes away in case he got his torpedoes away.
HMS Venturer had been silently stalking U864 for more than 2 hours now. With only 4 torpedo tubes to the German sub's 6, her only advantage was that U864 might not know that it had company. Once detected, the hunter could very quickly become the hunted.
Every time he turned, and when he turned away, if you like, there's a little bit of tension in the control room, because in the ideal position for him to fire back at us.
Launders set to work. Through a combination of estimates of distance and course, based on the ASDIC operator's trained ear and periodic periscope sightings, he calculated the German U-boat's path.
It was the fact that he had a mathematical brain, and he was able to take in all the information very, very quickly and process it and then make his decision. And it was very obvious sitting at the table with him that his mind was going all the time and thinking about the problems of attacking and what he would do. And of course he discussed a lot of this with us.
Never before had a submerged U-boat been torpedoed. But that's exactly what Launders had in mind. The problem was, he was forced to fire blind. Launders' solution was to try to predict the next move of the German U-boat.
Attention! Intend altering to firing course. Port 15, steer 097.
Once he decided that he felt confident that he knew what she was going to do next, then we moved away to attack.
If his calculations and estimates were right, Launder's torpedoes would sink the U-boat. If he missed, then Wolfram had 22 torpedoes at his disposal.
Four ends closed up at action stations.
Stand by. 1, 2, 3 and 4 tubes. Open bow.
In GeoBay's control room, everybody has their eyes fixed to the monitor. From the frozen depths, objects materialize on the screen.
That's good, yes.
That's excellent.
Slowly, the silhouette of a submarine becomes clear.
That's the turbine, yes. And that's heavy caliber. That's a 20mm gun, I think. Yes, that thing, yeah, that's right, yeah, 20mm, I think.
It seems very likely that this is the wreck of U864.
And the gun on the forecastle, yes, there we are. Seems to have corroded quite badly. Or else it's marine life on it, is it?
And then, final confirmation. After hours of probing, submerged in the seabed, one of the flasks of mercury that have provoked the search. It is carefully raised to the surface. Scientists also take samples of the seawater and the sediment nearby and under the wreck. Back on shore, the scientists examine the flask, still full of mercury. It does indeed belong to U864. After 60 years in salt water, corrosion has pitted the steel. The metal has started to deteriorate seriously. The water and sediment samples are alarming. The contamination with mercury is far above safe levels. U864 has left a deadly legacy. On board the Venturer, Jimmy Launders has brought the boat into attack position. It's 12:12 on February the 9th, 1945.
1 and 2 tube bow caps open.
Firing intervals at 17.5 seconds. Fire 1! Fire 1!
Fire 1!
The torpedo will take 2 minutes to reach its moving target. He's been dodging possible unseen enemies for hours, but only now are Captain Wolfram's worst fears realized.
Kapitän! Kapitän, unbekanntes Schraubengeräusch. Richtung Steuerbord, ca. 120 Grad.
Kopfhörer.
But even as the torpedo draws nearer, a second is on its way.
Fire 2! Fire 2!
Fire 2!
There is no time to think. There is only one hope: emergency evasion.
Alarm! Alarm! Tauchen! Vorn und achtern hart unten!
Unaware of the evasive action of U864, Launders methodically follows his plan.
Fire 3! Fire 3!
Kapitän! Bitte weiteres Torpedo-Laufgeräusch.
Wolfram realizes 3 torpedoes are now on their way.
The Mark 8 2-star torpedoes were very noisy. We were certain that he would turn away as soon as we fired. If he didn't hear, had no idea we were there and didn't hear them, they would hit him. And if he had heard the torpedoes approaching, one after the other, he would turn away
The first torpedo misses its target.
Torpedo hat uns irgendwo aus passiert. Läuft ab.
Wolfram and his crew seem lucky again.
5-4! 5-4!
As Ventura fires her fourth and last torpedo, Captain Launders orders the sub to dive. It's time for him to take his own evasive action, not knowing if his attack has succeeded in destroying his enemy. "13 minutes past 12, the Azdik of U864 suddenly hears the fourth torpedo coming.
Kommandant! Vierter Torpedo gleich! Backbord voran! Hart, Backbord! Auf 40 Meter gehen! Los!
With a last desperate evasive action, Wolfram tries to save the lives of the men on board U864. Aged just 12, Christopher Carlson was the only eyewitness to this incident.
Then I saw a U-boat out there. There was an explosion, a pretty high jet of water and smoke. And then we saw the U-boat sinking down, quietly and peacefully.
At 14.5 minutes past 12, Launders wrote in his log, "Loud, sharp explosion, followed by breaking up noises."
If you can imagine a box of matches being squeezed into a hand and cracking up, that is a sound of another ship going down. It breaks up.
That's a hit! Yes!
It was a relief that you got rid of. And then the next minute, I realised that it was another submarine and more submariners had been killed. Do we recognise another submariner? Doesn't matter where he come from. We take our hats off to him. They were all in the same boats as us. So we realised that it was nothing to be jubilant about. Only for the minute, gone. But when we reflected afterwards, you think to yourself, poor bastards.
The last moments of U864 had been the subject of conjecture for John Watson and the Ventura crew for 60 years.
We were all certain right from the beginning that it was the fourth, last torpedo that hit him. The first thing you do if you hear torpedoes coming at you, you turn away and you go deep. So I would expect to find the after hydroplanes set to dive, and if they were set to dive, then the chances are very high that he was actually turning away as well.
The mission to investigate the still deadly cargo of U864 has finally resolved this. Captain had made exactly the maneuvers that Launders had foreseen. Today, the rudders of U864 remain in the position of emergency dive.
And behind those you can see the palace.
Wolfram steered right into the fourth torpedo of the Ventura. The remains of U864 form one of the greatest ecological disasters in the North Sea. The soil is contaminated. Fishing is now prohibited. The Norwegian government is considering how best to seal the wreck site hermetically. U864 is also the grave of Willy Transia, fiancé of Edith Wetzler. At the U-boat memorial in Heikendorf near Kiel, his name is all that remains to remind Edith of her lost love.
When I go to bed at night, I take the picture and place it next to my pillow and dream about the fact that at least he's found peace.
Willy Transia's is one of over 30,000 names of German submariners who died in the Second World War. Their memorial stands at the shore of the Kiel Fjord. On December the 5th, 1944, a German U-boat left here on its first and only mission, U864.
Another disaster